Who else is in the room tonight, Sarah? Big thanks to our sponsor, THC Law. And no, it's not about THC, it's about law, although they do some of that. Aurora Maher from Amco Capital Management. Auntie Beverages, which are at the bar. Please do not forget to tip your bartender. We really appreciate it. We appreciate that. Hey, Mark. Good to see you here. Okay, so we've got a mix of the med starter community and the family office community here today. Really amazing people in all areas. Okay, so would you like to say anything, Sarah?
Have a great time.
Have a great time. Good message. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to hear from Minister Grigor Taskovich. Excuse me. Obviously. I need some slide again tonight. Okay. It's a static deck. It's a static deck, yes. I don't have the cookie. Okay, so Minister Gligovich was, actually, let him introduce himself. Grigor Taskovich, that I've now messed up twice. You think I'd never done this before? Why don't you come on up here? We'll get your slide up behind you in a second. After he goes, we've got two power panels, one with Tom Siddiqui, myself, and Avishai. And let's hear from Minister Gligovich.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me in the back? Talking? Hello? Hello? Man, you guys are rude. All right. Can those of you up front hear okay? Okay, great. Hi. I'm Grigor Taskovich. I'm the retired Minister for Foreign Investment and Aviation for the Republic of what is now called North Macedonia. It's Macedonia. It was Macedonia back then. My name is Grigor Taskovich. I'm the retired Minister of Foreign Investment and Aviation for North Macedonia. It's a small country over in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
My name is Grigor Taskovich. I'm the retired Minister for Foreign Investment and Aviation of a country now known as Republic of North Macedonia. Once upon a time when I was there, it was just Republic of Macedonia. It's located due north of Greece on the European continent. The topic of the talk tonight was how I, as an American citizen born in Mount Kisco, New York, in northern Westchester County, was allowed to run a small country overseas. And I think you'll find it interesting because you probably know nobody else has done this. In 2006, I was one of just 30 Americans authorized to run a country around the world. Some people were defense ministers, some prime ministers, some presidents, some central bank governors. So it was really quite an honor to be selected to do this. And the story really begins back in December of 1999, when a very junior Minister of Trade and Development from Macedonia was leading the delegation to Seattle to the World Trade Organization talks. And those of you old enough to remember those talks may remember it was the first time on American soil that there were riots and protests, especially against the foreign dignitaries who were present. Tomatoes, raw eggs, this kind of thing. And so for a young man who was just 27 years old, leading a delegation, politically senior, but junior chronologically, and it was his first trip to America, he was really shattered because it shattered the vision of America as, you know, the shining country on a hill. Anyway, I met with him immediately after that in Toronto, and I'd actually been in Macedonia, so I flew via Toronto back to New York to have dinner with him and other people. And after talking to him for 3 hours, I said to him, Nicola, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I like your ideas, and I see in you the ability to become prime minister, and I hope it happens one day. And on that, we parted. In his government lost the elections in 2002. He became head of the party because the prime minister needs to step down if they lose the election. And he led the party back to a victory in 2006, winning a plurality of seats, 34 out of 120, and given the right to form a new government. I found out about this a day or two after the election because they don't have real-time election calculations back then as they do here in America. And I called him up, said, Nicola, congratulations, it's Gligor. It's a short 30-second call. Just wanted to wish you good luck. I told you this was going to happen, and now look at you now. You're going to make this happen. And hung up the phone. 2 weeks later, I started getting phone calls from Macedonians around the diaspora, around the world. And the reason I knew people around the world was because I had started the Western Union money transfer system in Macedonia, and Western Union paid for me to travel around the world speaking to the diaspora in their radio stations and their chambers of commerce and so on. So they all knew who I was. Plus, my late father had been, a decade earlier, had been co-chair of the diaspora. And so, and then they called up, they're like, Gligor, you're on the front page of the paper today. And I said, really? That's really strange. What's it say? They're like, yeah, above the fold, page 1, bold letters. There's a picture of you by some military tank, which was taken a few years earlier at Fort Lewis. I was on a special tour sponsored by the Department of Defense to look at U.S. West Coast military establishments. And the screaming headline, it says, Toskovic imminently to be named Deputy Prime Minister. There's this whole article. And I'm like, come on, you're kidding me. I mean, I'm just here in New York, minding my own business. What's this all about? And at the time, there were 9 national newspapers covering different parts of the political spectrum and different ethnicities. Macedonia is a multi-ethnic, multi-confessional state. And over the next 3 weeks, in one or more of these 9 papers every day, the same screaming headline, article, and picture. And the thing that I found really amusing about this was that I know that USAID, when they had money to spend overseas, and other aid agencies, were all about teaching journalists how to contact the subject of their stories and to indicate in the article if they are unable to reach the subject of the story, just like we do here in America, right? That these sort of journalistic standards should be taught and educated to all these people in Eastern Europe and Central Asia and so on. So they all knew how to reach me. I'd been a quasi-public figure in Macedonia in the 1990s. It's now 2006. But it was very strange that no one had called me. And so finally on August 6th of 2006, fully a month later, the incoming Prime Minister, Nicola Gruevski, calls me back. Says, Gligor, I'd like to offer you a job in my government. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock, really? I had no idea. This is shocking. I mean, every day I'm doing phone calls for 3 weeks. And he says, the bad news is we have to pay you the local salary, which is 800 euros a month. That's about $1,000 a month back then. And I was like, well, okay, as long as you cover my fixed costs here in New York City, I can afford to do that. So he agreed to cover the rent, health insurance, and the utilities. And I went to Macedonia, except for one thing. I knew I needed State Department permission to do this, or I would lose my my citizenship. I knew that. So the first call after we hung up was not to my mother, but it was to the State Department legal office. And I even knew their number, 202-647-4000. I got connected, and I got this very patronizing, arrogant young lawyer at the State Department. And I tell him what happened. I just got this phone call from incoming Prime Minister. He invited me to join this cabinet, the senior position. And, I really want to take this job. And he says to me, oh, Mr. Toskovic, he says, I'm looking at a piece of paper on my desk. And that piece of paper is entitled Potentially Expatriating Acts. And there are 30 ways, he's hectoring me, there are 30 ways you can lose your nationality. And number 1 on that list is taking an oath of office to a foreign country. And I said, I know that, sir. That's why I'm calling you. He's trying to, intimidate me. And I said, you know something? I said, if you could see the wall behind me, there's a little plaque or a collage. And it's a invitation card to the opening of the new U.S. Embassy in Macedonia in December of 1993. And as part of that collage, there's a little piece of red ribbon, he said. And that's because of all the people in the country and indeed around the world who could have opened the U.S. Embassy, the ambassador picked me to do it because he so respected the work my family had done and I had done for Macedonia since its independence. And furthermore, I said, no report left the U.S. Embassy for years without my looking at it because they trusted my judgment so implicitly. They wanted to make sure they had said the right stuff because none of them had any of the Balkans experience. And all those reports concluded that economic development will bring political stability, which was a primary goal of the US government. And so I said, so you should approve this because I'm clearly the person to do this. And he said, oh, Mr. Toskovich, he said, first, you must commit the potentially expatriating act, and then we will decide. And I said, that sounds like Russian roulette. I don't really like those odds. I said, I'm not looking to, sacrifice my U.S. citizenship. And so the call ended, and I tried calling other places in Washington. I wasn't getting any luck, including my own representative, Carolyn Maloney, because she was in bed with the Greeks, and she was taking all their money. She wouldn't even take my phone call. No one in the office would even return my phone call. And so I was 3 days away from getting on a plane to go to Macedonia, not really sure what was going to happen. And Google was brand new. This is August of 2006. Google is brand new. And I'd heard about it, and I thought, well, I should just try it. And I typed loss of nationality Supreme Court. And it turns out there are 10 ways. There were 10 court cases. Sorry. There were 10 Supreme Court cases on loss of nationality. And the first one from 1988, the most recent one, was exactly my case. And in the court decision, they concluded, and I quote, absent a declaration of intent by the person committing the potentially expatriating act, comma, the State Department may decide. Basically saying that if I wrote a letter to the State Department saying I'm taking this job, I don't intend to lose my nationality in doing so, they couldn't decide otherwise. Their hands were tied. And all that idiot lawyer had to do was tell me that. Instead, he tried to be bombastic about it. And so I wrote the letter. I flew to Macedonia. I swore in front of a consular officer. I spent 2 days in confirmation hearings in Parliament. I was confirmed, went back, swore more documents, and 3 weeks later had a letter from the State Department saying as long as I keep a residence in America, vote in America, pay taxes to America, they wouldn't recognize my diplomatic passport, but I was okay. And so that's how I did it. I wanted to tell you quickly, P.S., what happened. The government lasted 2 years, and the team of people I hired and trained, mostly people in their 20s who didn't know they could fail, but college educated, we collectively raised the GDP of Macedonia by nearly 50%, bringing in over 1.5 billion US dollars. So it was a win. What's that? Was what? Part of the. Was this money? Was the money we brought in? 1.5 billion.
Repeat the question, Igor.
Oh, no, that was different. Yeah, so the gentleman wanted to know what percent of the GDP was expatriates sending money back. That's not included in my number. Thank you.
Okay. Big round of applause for Igor. So, very interesting stuff. Thank you, Igor. So next up is what we call a power panel. So they're intended to be punchy, fast. It's going to be a little hard because we only have one microphone. We did have a venue change, so we apologize for the technical issues. So let me introduce Khan Siddiqui, which is the next slide, I believe. Avishai. There he is, right there. So just go to full screen. Anyway, so Khan Siddiqui is one of my inspirational heroes in healthcare AI. He has created so much amazing stuff that you have used. So from the Xbox motion detecting device in the 90s to that device you stick your arm into at CVS called Higgy, which was sold to Babylon before Babylon went south. My favorite is his 0.6 Tesla magnet hyperfine. Well, I'm not a minister, but you can pay attention to me too. Anyway, I'm Alex Fair, by the way. Anyway, so Khan is on the panel, and we also have Avishai Nesavir, who is putting the panel up. One of our portfolio founders for the MedStarter VC portfolio. And so he has an EpiPen you can refill, actually refilling system for EpiPens. Also, the founders of Beautiful AI are here, and I would love if they would join us because one of our companies did not make it here tonight, and they had train issues. Is this working? I don't think it's working. Okay, we're having some technical difficulties due to the rain. We all got stuck in traffic, so we had a really late start. But I did want to thank, in particular, Taylor. If you love the selection of whiskeys, it's the man up front here. So Taylor, think about it. Thank you. Let's hear it for the whiskey. He also, I believe, is part owner of several distilleries, right? So a lot of great stuff. Talk to Taylor, right? If you like whiskey. Okay, so let's sit down, Con. Abhishan. I'll put the panel slide up. I'll sit down over here. So we only have one mic. Not our usual setup. Behind the screen. So Avi, have a seat. Avi is our moderator. Where do you want to see?
All right, we're going to start the panel over here. For the small percentage of the room that's paying attention to the front. It's all good. We'll have a fun time talking, and if you guys want to pay attention, that's fine. We're going to do a quick 30-second introduction for the people all up here, then we'll introduce the panel and get started talking about some cool things to do with artificial intelligence. So my name is Abhishan Saber, CTO of Curated Biotech, one of the medical portfolio companies of MedStarter. We refill EpiPens. I also do a lot of stuff in the AI space and science space, and way too much to talk about right now, but let's move on.
Thank you. Great to be here, Alex. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Khan Siddiqui, founder and CEO of Hopper. It's a medical imaging AI platform company. We're accelerating AI development for people building medical imaging applications and devices. I'm a radiologist by training, academic work in machine learning. Started 3 decades ago. Spent some stint in Microsoft working on Xbox and Microsoft Azure, and have had multiple other startups and since then, successful exits, and here we are.
Thank you. Jared Gariri, serial entrepreneur. The last exit was in LED lighting technology. Recently, we're into a beautiful AI, which fashion tech and future of work products. Multiple exits, and have always been involved in machine learning, which now is considered AI, and am incorporating all of that into the latest and greatest.
Thank you, Mark Dingle. Okay, so I appreciate that. I'm very honored to have you all here. Some of my heroes are here, including Abhishan, who's might be the smartest guy in the room, but that's just my opinion. You guys figure it out yourself. I'm Alex Fair. I started a meetup group in 2010. I didn't start it. I took it over from Eugene Barakovich, if anybody knows him. It became MedStarter, which is a leading crowdfunding site. And then we started running large crowd challenges, which we're actually starting to launch again today, the National Crowd Challenge, to find the best innovation. So if you don't know about it already, go to medstarter.com and fill out the application, and we will invest $250,000 into the winners usually. We do due diligence after that. So we've been running this for 7 years as a fund. We're raising our nest funds. All investing bears risk. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. But anyway, so I'm a user of Beautiful AI. Okay, and I've had way too many MRIs. Dangerous life, I guess. So I'm a big fan. So Avi, what's our next question, Mr. Moderator?
So the goal of the panel today is to talk about the overlap between AI and investing, which right now is something like a 50% overlap based on recent numbers. But to start off, we want to figure out how we can have some discussions that maybe might help you a little bit in thinking about what makes a good AI investment. How should I think about allocating funds with regards to this crazy boom? As we saw from the dot-com boom, most companies that are succeeding right now will probably disappear very, very quickly, probably even worse than that. So to start things off, what I want us to each talk about for a little bit is how do we create different subdivisions within the space of AI? These days, when people think AI, it's almost synonymous with ChatGPT, which is a large language model. But AI has been around since way before LLMs existed. And right now, there are many different aspects of the AI space that are very ripe for investment, possibly even more so than the things directly related to LLMs. So I want each of you to talk about a little bit which areas of AI might exist strongly within the space, but are a little bit different than what someone might think about.
I like that question, actually. Thank you. So there's a big misconception about it. It's just like one blockchain, internet bubble, right? Everything is the latest and greatest. So the biggest thing I found that you really need to dig down deep and look at core AI. It's got to be core AI. Everybody wants to throw AI at the end of their company, at the end of the name of the product, but it's not really, it's utilizing AI, but the product itself, what you're investing in, is usually not core AI. So core AI is really what are you doing? It's core AI for fashion tech, right? You're picking a subject, core AI for medtech. You want to core AI for legal, where it's going to really go in and build those contracts based on the LLM that you build and the prompt that you create. And that's your intellectual property right there, the prompt that you create to get the information output. And that's basically the biggest thing I would advice I would give when you're looking at investment in AI. Make sure it's core technology AI in that specific area. Right, there's a lot of AI. Let's go back to everything, the internet bubble, dot-coms, blockchain, and it goes on through the years. So that's really where I'm coming from when I look at AI. What is it? What kind of intellectual property do you have? What kind of proprietary technology do you have? And what does it do?
So the way I think about this is in few segments. So number one is people who are building the technology that enables AI development, the plumbing aspect of it, right? So if you think the oil analogy, you need gas for your car to go fast, for example. Who's doing the processing of that? Who's doing the pipeline and plumbing, all that aspect of it? So that's where we kind of live in. Then there's what you talked about, the core AI, people actually training and building those models around that aspect of it. And the third one is the application of those AI that are using those LLMs that somebody else has built and then building application of it. And there's a specific way to think about each one of them. Absolutely, the middle part is the core technology, the infrastructure is core technology. But on the application, it ends up being what problem are they solving? Is there value? Do people care about their problem? And do they have the user experience figured out, right? So frontier models and foundation models will do it, but they're not going to focus on specifically the workflow end-to-end. So the companies like Ambient AI and Hippocrates, things like that, they're actually taking existing LLMs, but have really tightly integrated into the workflow that is showing huge value for clinicians and patients aspect of it. So they're not reinventing the whole thing. Vital AI is another one that is doing some things like that, where they're taking existing LLMs, but providing unbelievably awesome experience to the patient and the physician. So that provides value aspect. I would not discount ChatGPT wrappers right away. There are specific workflows where you can really provide that value that and solve the problem that exists in the aspect of it. But as you said, right, if you're investing in AI, it's that lens. Is it you're investing in the companies that are doing the plumbing of it? Are you investing in people who are building the actual models itself? And are you investing in the applications of that that's solving real problems? And you think of it differently.
If you guys remember, there was a documentary with Bill Gates and the OpenAI guys. Sam Milstein kept going to him and saying, "We got this, we got this." He said, "Well, when you come back to me and it could do an SAT, score or stuff like that," and they came back and he didn't even invest until it was at that level. So if you really look at, real deep investors, what they're investing in that have mega money, they do their homework.
So I think I love everything you guys said, but I would add that if they're not creating the data structure and the positive feedback loops to get more data. So take the Tesla example for automated driving, right? So it's not just selling Teslas, it is collecting the largest data set ever of camera-based auto driving, right? So I like things that are getting that initial grab of user interest, right? Like you're saying, you have to be solving a problem that people love. They fucking love, and they're going to come into it. But then you're going to get 10 times as much data. And this is how we select companies. We do these challenges. We collect a ton of data. And while Khan tells me it's not a foundation model for startups, that's still how I think of it, because we collect, hundreds of things that are ridiculous when we do these things. So to me, I want all the data about the startups, and I want data that are getting all the data about your exposures for autoimmune disease, right? That are leading to your actual symptoms, which leads to cost of care, which leads to people being healthier. When you figure out which of those symptoms, you can only do that if you create a beautiful application that people love, okay? And then you start to collect lots and lots of data from all of their devices, right? So you have the full data picture of the patient. And that's the true healthcare singularity that I think we're going to see very soon. I'm sure you have a great answer to this too, Abhishek. You're not just a question asker.
I'm glad you mentioned data, because that's very clearly going to be one of the biggest drivers of anything to do with AI. We all have the technology, but who has the data to feed the technology is its own new source of gold. But speaking of new sources of gold, I think the other layers that we really need to think about when we're talking about the AI space and investing in the AI space is what makes that AI space tick, which is, you've got data centers, which that itself, data centers, the power and cooling that supplies them, anything to make a better data center or provide that sort of computing power itself it's absolutely like the AI is not going to go away, but a lot of AI companies right now are going to go away. So the question is, how do you put money so that it is not very sensitive to any individual company starting or failing? Well, it's at the one end or at the other end, which is something like Cursor, which is a company that right now is essentially one of the biggest ones within how do we use AI for programming. And they have raised tens, hundreds of millions of dollars because their product can be used with any LLM. And that's like another very big thing within the space. Either you're developing your own proprietary IP and moat, or you're saying, I'm going to make one particular user experience so convenient for my end user that they can then bring whatever LLM they want, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. They can bring any of their own thing, and then no matter who is winning in that race, they can plug in. And that's going to be a very large number of companies because it's the easiest one to build, but it can be done right. Now, the next part of that I want to move on to is we're seeing this as this Wild West explosion. But I think one of the biggest things that could throw a monkey wrench into the works is when the government steps in. Regulation within this space is still in its nascent stages, but like if the government decides, for example, to release all of its data in a certain way, that can wipe out a massive section of the market. If it restricts access, it can do things. So I want to know how in each of your guys' specialties and spaces, how do you feel like regulation might either really help the market or be very scary?
Before you talk, that's a loaded question. No, because Khan is killing you. What you say?
So this is a particularly good question for Khan because he's in a space that has been regulatorily challenged for 20 years, where AI has been better than humans at reading your MRI. Yes, very few OCD neuroradiologists will find that tiny little bleed in your MRI, but few have the patience. But an AI can do 1,000 of them a minute. And it's been true for 20 years, but the American College of Radiology, also known as human beings, have been blocking it for a long time. Khan thinks he can fix that. So I want to hear how Khan's fixing that.
So actually, that whole society's pushing against it has changed. So just to give you an idea of what Alex said, right? So when we look at a chest X-ray, can anybody guess how long does it take to detect a finding on a chest X-ray for a radiologist? Throw a number. 20 minutes. What else? 20 seconds. 2 hours. How about 250 milliseconds? That's how long it takes to actually find a finding, right? But the rest of the time is spending looking at the previous chart, getting the previous images, dictating a report, correcting it, signing it, pushing it, right? It's all the other nonsense that you do. It's not the detection that is causing the value, it's the rest of the workflow piece that all require imaging AI automation aspect of it, right? That's where the value is. Today, we have severe shortage of radiologists in the country. So the recent class of who graduated in the US, 1,004 radiologists graduated on June 30th. Today, if you open up ACR's job site, there are 2,300 jobs available for radiologists with nobody there who can take that. So each resident who graduated had 3 jobs available to them. We are severe shortage. There are big academic medical centers no longer reporting cases. So Rush University in Chicago, big medical center, are no longer reporting on speech pathology studies. Radiology practices in North Carolina are not reading chest X-ray anymore because they don't have time anymore. The volume is so much. The increase in imaging volume in the last 10 years gone up by 36%. Why? Our population is aging. More people above age 65 requiring more imaging. Our practice patterns have changed to nurse practitioners and PAs. They order 3 times more imaging than MDs do. New drugs are coming out that require imaging to understand dosimetry of these patients or understand complications of it. Lucinemab for Alzheimer's, for prostate, for other things. So we've exponentially increased number of imaging where we actually decrease number of trainees where you're training. And who controls that? Medicare, CMS controls that, right? Medicare, Medicaid controls that. So with funding cut over there, there's no chance that is increasing. So we need to figure out how to solve this problem. So good news is that the trend has changed. Right? FDA is looking at how to streamline the process. Today, they released a whole new guidance on how to expedite this whole process. All the societies, ACR, everybody's all changing this stuff. Issue is, it still requires legislation to change to allow an autonomous type of things, and that's what's gonna like to happen. But the problem has become so big that now everybody's pushing in that direction.
So my question is, how much does that hinder the technology from helping people?
I think it does, right? It takes a while to get things out. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 decades now. So our MR scanner, the previous company, we were releasing every 6 weeks every 2 months, we were releasing new upgrades to that, all deep learning based reconstruction, things like that. So we figured out how to navigate those processes, doing it faster, but everybody doesn't know that, right? People don't have the experience, they're trying to, and they get stuck in this legislation limbo. So I think as FDA is streamlining the process, all the tools they released today, literally today, they announced a lot of the stuff on how to navigate this and how to expedite faster. They're opening up more channels where previously they had no way to work with somebody inside the FDA. So here's the funny thing, right? How did autopilot for airlines happen? FAA put their staff in the airlines, in the Boeing and Airbus offices to work with them to express, because they saw the need needs to be there. Safety has to improve. The same thing is is happening now at FDA where they're trying to enable that kind of process. So this just announced today.
That's one look at it. So my feeling is always a double-edged sword, especially government governance. Every company has governance. Every industry has best practices and governance, but government governance is good and bad, right? With the days of the ICOs, remember everybody had a coin, a crypto coin. People were getting ripped off left and right. They governed it. It's kind of better now. When it comes to AI, this has been going on. Elon's been talking about this for forever, right? It's a double-edged sword. As long as government doesn't prohibit the acceleration of research and development to get there, it's not a bad thing. But when they start to govern the research and development and the progress, it becomes a bad thing. And that's what I'm going at with the good double-edged sword. And then you have these other things that are not related to AI currently, but tariffs. A new government regime will come in, they'll have tariffs that'll hurt a whole nother industry in a whole nother way. So it's industry specific, but it is a double-edged sword in any case with any industry and any type of governance.
So I don't know if you know, but CMS just launched. CMS is who pays for Medicare and Medicaid, manages all the healthcare, about 56% of all the healthcare in America. So they just launched an accelerator and a bunch of challenges. Now the head of DOGE is Amy Gleason, good friend of ours and another MedStarter mentor. She's looking for innovations to bring into government to change things. And I think that's the real thing. Once government is there as our partners, like we ran a challenge for HHS ONC in 2012. This one-person company named Medable got their first funding from it. Now they're worth $4 billion. What happens is the market talks, and if the government helps, then and they listen, then you get innovation, and that's what's going to change our entire healthcare system. We talk about the shortages of doctors. AI takes us from scarcity to abundance, and it's really cheap once it gets going, right? Software is the best thing in the world to sell. You make it once, and you can sell it a million times. I'm your customer, you don't even know me, right? That's so easy, right? That's why I've been in love with making software for a long time. But my point is that the market will lead, and if the government follows what the market wants, then we will have a better system. And that's where we invest.
All right. Last question. What? Sure, you know what? We can take some questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question for the panel? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Anyone? Something to do with anything we've talked about? AI, investing? Oh, what over here?
I love investing in AI. Certainly think it will be like the internet and change every single industry out there. But I'm concerned on the other side of AI. We're all human beings and here for all big lists. One of my friends is a following investments. Working nation about fear of the future work. And they work with AI, robotics, etc. What are your thoughts about the future of jobs and work in an AI economy? And what can we all do to sort of, we all believe in AI, we all believe in AI, we believe things like the internet, to make the world a better place.
Okay, so the question is, what do we think about AI insofar as it impacts jobs from an optimistic perspective, hopefully? Yeah, whatever we think. My first take on it is essentially that right now in the short term, there's going to be a very large impact on job markets. That as we figure out how the current AI technology, if it did not get any better, is already capable of replacing a large percentage of jobs that currently exist. And that's not going away because you can't stop technological progress. There's going to be the stopgap measure of trying to have some type of governmental assistance in the transfer. If we look back at what happened at the turn of the century in the Industrial Revolution, you had that sort of thing trying to happen, like all these Teamsters out of work, their horses are replaced by cars. You have some type of oversight that hopefully doesn't just give them money, but helps them transfer to a new type of profession. I think the single biggest opportunity right now for anyone whose job is being threatened by AI is literally how to learn to use it, because it can be a force amplifier rather than a force replacer. If everyone is using AI to do the work of 3 people, then suddenly our GDP can triple if it is properly linear like that.
Yeah, the way I think about it is that productivity has always increased number of jobs in the long run, right? So you give example of horses and cars, right? If you look at the job to be done is drive somebody from home to a restaurant or home to a theater. There are million-fold more people doing the job today than in the horse age. It's just enabled a lot of people to do it, aspect of it, right? One example is in Chicago, 20% of all Uber rides are to the airport. But when car was invented in 1900, can you even imagine? Did anybody even imagine that there will be a job taking somebody to an airport? Airplane didn't exist. You couldn't even imagine what are the things going to be happening, right? Same thing, right? You're going to theater. Movie wasn't out yet, right? So now people are going to movie theaters. So these things, we don't even know what AI will enable that will have more jobs and more exploration that will happen.
So that's a great point, because AI could create new jobs. And then again, going back to what we did after the war, re-education of the workforce, which is going to be needed. And when you re-educate a workforce, they generally get a better job for better paying money. So overall, I think it's going to be good. When you say put people out of work, the only people who are going to be put out of work are the people that don't want to work. And that's how I've seen it since the beginning of time.
Well, I think I have a counterpoint. Like, who wants to work anyway? Okay, so look, human productivity over the last 700 years, especially since the Industrial Revolution, has gone up 5,000% everywhere except healthcare, which is true, right? Because it's been anti-innovation. So what happens once we get to the point where 80% of the work of doctors can be done by an AI. And that will come soon, okay, in my opinion. So what happens to those people? Well, they own the practices or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're increasing productivity another tenfold, that means you can get the work of society done, and people don't necessarily have to work. Now, that gets into the question of distribution of wealth and universal basic income, which I really don't want to address. But I do think that why work?
Alex's take is that AI will eventually replace all humans, putting us all out of all jobs, but it'll be fine because it'll provide for us as long as they remain benevolent. So we've got one more question. Or we good? All right. Yeah, all right. Guys, thanks for listening to our short little discussion here, and stay tuned for next time.
Good job, Robbie. Okay, I guess I gotta go back to being the MC. So, do you guys want to take a break, or do you want to see Sarah Pusilnik's Legacy Art Power Panel? Anyone? Sarah, bring your girls up here. Sarah. We have Sarah Pusilnik, Avi, I have a mic, Avisha. Can you please put up the next panel slide? Okay, so the reason that this event exists are two of the women on stage. Andrea Bartson ran an event called the Global Passion Project down in Miami. Sarah Pusilnik introduced me to this audience. I said, this is great. Let's do it in New York. Although that was really Sarah's idea. So, Sarah, would you like to introduce your panel? Okay, so I believe you have your panel. So.
You guys, I'm gonna, you guys. Okay. Is she not the most amazing host with the most? Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dan. Welcome. Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone. So, this is from wanting to empower people and bring some light and do some awesome things, and especially for women. And so right now up here are probably some of the most powerful and interesting women that you can possibly sit and listen to and hear to give some very interesting and what I like to refer to as power talks to inspire, empower, and get you to think. Everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Bartson. I'm the founder of the Global Passion Projects, which is a business that cuts across all silos in capital and capital formation and capital deployment. to organize a new model according to our passions. So a lot of times in the finance world, we have this debate about what's better, making a difference, making an impact, or making a return. In actuality, the best companies and the best investments are not in conflict with either of those. It's called innovation. So, and we're talking about AI, what is innovation and what is our role and our responsibility around that? And I think it's very magnanimous. So as we talk about an AI world and a new tech world, which is AI, there's also an underlying trend that's equally as powerful, talk about empowerment, and that is a bottom-up society that is led by our creativity and led by the innovation by entrepreneurs and creators. So as we come together as a community of family offices to support the underpinnings of our country, which is innovation, and the innovation from both entrepreneurs and creators, we take back our individual power and our collective power to create a new society. So that's the underpinning of the Global Passion Projects. We're combining philanthropy with impact investing to find the solutions that we want to solve in the world. So underpinning of it is healthcare. So an example of that is if you have a kid that has autism, you will move all worlds to find a cure for autism. You will look past all boundaries, all borders. You will look at philanthropy, impact investing. You will look at the Middle East or any other country to come up with those cures. So that's really the foundation of it. So I'm all about empowerment for all humans and for us collectively as communities.
Hi, I'm Christine Shushkevich, and for my legacy, I'd like to leave a happier world, but I don't really think that I could leave a happier world unless I myself leave the world happier. That means I need to be happy, but frankly, most of us don't even really know what happiness is. We've been sort of brainwashed into all these different ideas of what happiness is. It's a partner, it's a job, it's a house, it's a certain group of friends. But how much truth is there to that? Are these things ever a source of true happiness? So let's just take a simple example from daily life. Piece of cake. We walk into a party, we see this beautiful cake. Wow, we look forward to having some of that cake. We anticipate it, we crave it sometimes, we even eat it if it's bad for us sometimes. But then when we finally get the cake, we eat half of it, and then we realize we didn't even taste it because our mind is in a different place entirely. Then we think, okay, I'll just have a little bit more after. So we get ourselves another slice. We eat that, and then we find this cake. It's made me feel sick. So here, this object, this thing, which can equally be an emotion, a goal, a tangible object, doesn't matter what it is. But this thing we discover is not a true source of happiness. If it were a true source of happiness, the cake would always make us feel amazing. So what we actually call the kind of pleasure that we have from a piece of cake is we call that changing suffering. It's just a momentary distraction from the suffering that we see around us, that we endure ourselves. So if we were going to be able to be happy from our success, I think everybody in this room would be happy all day, every day, without cessation. But we're not, are we? Let's just think about that. So how do we get there? It's through our mind. Our mind and our heart is a source of peace. And it's only that through that peace that we can find there through, I know many of you meditate, that we can then begin to build peace and build bliss from peace. Now, I always thought peace, that kind of sounds boring. I mean, I love to come visit New York. Obviously, I'm not the kind of person who likes boring. So that doesn't sound so, lying by a lake and listening to the waves. That's really nice. That's not what I want for happiness. There's got to be a lot more than that. And we don't know it, but we can actually get that from in here once we work on it and grow that. So if you have a path, great. Maybe you're a Kabbalist or a Sufi, Christian something, whatever you may be, that's great. Just do that, practice that. Find the way that is maybe hidden or not taught to everybody that enables you to connect to that happiness. Because that happiness will change the world. We know enough about physics these days to know that what we think we're seeing and experiencing is not real in the way that we think it is. So if we can change our minds, we change the world. So if you don't have a path, I've passed out some cards to some people for a free download book, which worked for me. I've been at it for 20 years.
Om Namo Hare Om Namo Hare Om Shanti, hi. So I know a lot of the beautiful people in the room, and I hope we can all share with the happiness and support Sarah and her visions of where and what she wants to take us on these journeys. So thank you, Sarah. It is an honor to have you here. So let's resonate with your beauty and with your special talents, and we're here to support you. Thank you. So I'm not listed here because I'm not usually in town, but so I get to come in and visit. It's Fiona Bannister, and my passions and passion projects have taken me through the rivers, through the mountains, through the valleys, and through wars. And I take a moment right now to also remind us that it is a very challenging time on the globe. You know, it's been 29 years that I've had a nonprofit that's not next to the United Nations. We surround the globe. We work with Indigenous leaders. We work with children that are human trafficked, that are now no longer just children. They are doctors, they are lawyers, they're environmentalists. They are powered and empowered. And they are my teachers, and I hope you can be taught as well, because I find that when I show up in New York, I don't know what, sometimes I get lost on the subway. And I think, how do we take what the knowledge is from so many different communities and so many different ways that we can affect change? So I have 3 nonprofits. The first one is called partnershipsforchange.org with Jackie Miller. And we have been working on human trafficking, empowerment, media, meditation work, but also we've been working on food security. Right now with USAID, we have just upped our 1.7 million. We're now doing 9.7 million meals a day for children that have no access. And that is from the rice, the hull of the rice that gets thrown out. So we are optimizing the use of the hull of the rice. So that will now, I'll take it into the UN in September, and I will deploy that with our teams around the world. It is time for solutions. So a part of my personal investing has been always directed to find the solutions. What is the technology? What is the AI? What is the food security, the water, the sanitation? Haiti, the earthquake, I went for 3 years after the earthquake, structured finance for toilets, water, sewer, sanitation. So I'm a doer. That's it. So you can understand that some of us are here talking. And if you want to join my peace train and this action, it's one that means that you actually get leached your blood in the middle of the rainforest. So the last 5 years, we just did the X Prize Rainforest Conservation. Our team was the 8 or 9 of us got it to the semifinals. The X Prize is one of the most challenging technology competitions in the world. And I had over 176 scientists, 32 different indigenous tribal communities that were involved in it, that were co-leading it. Nayara Tukunu, since I speak for her here, but Nayara is the chief's daughter of the Tukunu tribe in Brazil, one of the largest entitled entitled forest owners in the world. So Nayara is a social justice environmental lawyer, a mother of 4 children, and a warrior. And so she's teaching me how I can keep learning every time. Nayara's co-partner in Ecuador is Hector Vargas and Nantar Inga and Maria Clara Sharupajua. And so they are the Shuar, the Kichwa, and then we have the Warani tribes. So we've been really working on how do we protect ourselves for medicines, the value of the traditional medicines of the plant, animals, the gut, the biome of the earth. So the X Prize, my last thing, we had 54 drones. We went under the rainforest. NASA was part of our team. We used the most advanced AI technology in the world, where we used sound. We could hear when a bird had lost its way. We could actually find when a toad couldn't find its mate when he was in distress. We were able to then use environmental DNA. We all got swabbed during COVID, so we went even more. We swabbed the whole earth of the technology that we can, measuring and monitoring the contaminants in the drinking water. Unfortunately for Singapore, they got a report of 119 contaminants in their drinking water, because we were also one of the only teams that was open sourced. So it wasn't just in the drinking water, it was in our organs, it was those that live in Singapore, it was the cancers, the carcinogenics. And so I'm a traditional, I'd call it therapist in my own way, because I had to learn how to be a tribal doctor, because I'm in the tribes. I'm there living, and I'm also catching the diseases and looking at treatments and solutions and therapy. So I wanted to bring that tech is here. We actually can use artificial intelligence to amplify the efforts so that we can impact lives and make genomic sequencing right now in the most important ways for genome sequencing. I know everybody's got a verbal diarrhea way in the back of the room there, but that's cool. It's cool. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pass the mic to one of my great other goddesses here. So the final site, that's under decarbonize.org. And decarbonize.org, we're in the UN, out of the UN, and we also have my private family forests, which are totally something you have to ask me about, because we only invest in things that change food, tech, food services, and of course, humanitarian actions. So thank you. Now, here we go.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Hello, everybody. I think you all came here because you wanted to hear the speakers. You wanted to honor us. And Sarah, thank you so much for having us. I know you all enjoyed the food and the drinks are wonderful. Seriously, folks, how many think AI is taking your job away? And maybe your tongue. Hello? How many think that AI is taking jobs away? Hello? How many have ears? So we're talking about art, we've talked about empowerment and impact. So, and I'm not going to say any more because I guess you don't want to hear what I have to say. Oh, okay. Okay. So I will take a couple of minutes because I can talk to you for a very long time. There's AI and its implications on society and on human evolution is a very rich topic. I'll just choose a couple of points. One, this myth about AI is taking over jobs. We had the same story when when iconography came out and digital photography, digital art. We said it's not real art, blah, blah, blah. But I have news for you. AI is another tool, like any other digital tool, like any other, like oil, like acrylics. It's another tool for artists to use. And what is amazing about it in that regard is it enables the rest of us who are not as able to express their artistic inner self to actually express it with the help of AI. So it unlocks and unleashes. So a true artist would be embracing and not be threatened by the fact that others would be able to also share in the creation. The second thing is we talk about AI as if it's sentient. Oh, AI is doing this to us. AI is doing that. Dudes, AI isn't doing anything yet. It is not sentient. And we all know the power of word and manifestation. So the way you speak of it, you are exonerating yourself from the responsibility and you're relinquishing your power in raising your AIs and in how you are framing it. So we have the power. Your jobs aren't taken by AI. It's your employer that's choosing to invest in AI than in your employment. So it's our responsibility to take a good look in the mirror. The last thing I want to say is you guys have to realize that your inner powers, all of us as individuals, but also as investors. This is the time. AI is not an incremental. AI is an exponential because it doesn't come alone by itself. It comes with its posse of friends, like quantum, like immersive, like distributed. So when you put it all together, like nano, like bio, like robotics are not just AI. Okay, so where do you invest if you want to chase the wave? You are going to continue to propagate what's happening and you're going to create another bubble. Pay attention to the impact. And please know that there are loads of standards and recommended practices that the industry has been working on, like IEEE, like ISO, like ITU. I'm happy to share some more, but thank you so much for lowering the vibration and for lowering the volume and for your kind attention and your beautiful vibration in this very beautiful space. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
I would like to ask if we're going to take an Om. Hello, dear Pansy. If we're going to Om, you don't need to think about it. You just have to go in a cycle in the room. And I will like to honor this for the 5 beautiful people that were shot. And so I'm going to ask that if we could take this journey just for their families, and then we're going to send that same love across many different galaxies for peace around the earth. That's okay. So just keep going with your Now we keep going each cycle. Don't follow me, follow yourself. We're going to do a cycle of 12. namaste means honor the spirit inside of you, but also honor that of the other. Namaste.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for humoring us and listening to us. And I hope you got a little bit of inspiration and learned something. Enjoy.
Okay, we're gonna take a break, talk amongst yourselves, imbibe beverages while we figure out what we do next. Thanks for listening. Great job, Sarah. Big round of applause for Sarah's panel.
Please take care of your bartender. She's working very hard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody who worked at this event. John Frangipani was the guy who just spoke. Thank you, Frangipani. Friend for 30 years, great supporter, does home office technologies. So we actually have one more speaker. I'm sorry to have released you from the bondage. So this is our host. Yeah. So I will.